Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone. Merry Christmas and an upcoming Happy New Year for all. Just a quick programming note. I'm not sure what our schedule is going to be like this week with the holidays and so forth. So the best way to stay on top of what we're doing is to follow us here at the Barroom Network on your YouTube channel and follow us on the X account at Barroom Network. So let me bring in the man of the hour, Greg Gabriel. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine. Merry Christmas, buddy.
Merry Christmas, too. How was yours?
And everybody out there listening, belated Merry Christmas.
Yeah, so did you have all the grandkids over?
No, it's funny. We were supposed to go over there on Sunday, and they got COVID. So that screwed that up.
Wow.
A couple of them came over here. A couple of the healthy ones came over here for a little while, and then we went on Sunday night after the football games were over. We went to the Lake County light display. It's called Santa's Rockin' at the Lake County Fairgrounds, and it only takes 10, 15 minutes to go through it, but it's fun. So we did that. Had to drive to Milwaukee, pick up my stepdaughter yesterday morning. So she's here for a week or so.
Well, I can relate to what you went through because my wife got COVID on Christmas Eve. She tested positive, and so actually it was the day before Christmas Eve, and so all of our plans were scuttled. We've been isolated here at home all by ourselves. I fortunately am not showing any symptoms. I've been staying away from my wife, so I feel terrible for her because she did so much to prepare for the holidays, and we've had to push everything back to next week. So I can relate a bit to what you went through.
Well, that's what we're doing with the kids here is pushing everything back till next weekend.
Excellent. It doesn't matter when you celebrate Christmas because Christmas is every day, right?
Especially when the Bears win, right?
Especially when the Bears win. And they did win. They beat the Arizona Cardinals, and they did it convincingly. Give us your take on the game.
Well, I don't know if I agree that it was convincingly. But
I got you right.
It got a little shaky there.
Mm-hmm.
In the second half, the first half was very convincing.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. I think they go into conservative mode in the second half when they got leads like that. Then it just there's no killer instinct. I don't know if it's the players or the coaches.
Yeah.
That killer instinct and keep your pedal on the gas just doesn't seem to be there. I wish it was, but hey, there could have been. We'll probably know tomorrow about the injuries. There could be a couple injuries in there with Komet and stuff. We'll see how DJ's ankle is. But he played. I mean, he gutted it out. More power to him. I mean, he looked like he twisted it pretty good. And he came out and played. And he was used more as a decoy than anything else because you got to cover him when he's on the field. But, that took away from the passing game.
Yep. So can you see if DJ Moore is out, if Cole Kmet is out for this upcoming game, can you see perhaps the Bears resting Justin Fields, some mysterious ailment?
No, not at all. They got to get all they can on him to make a final decision. And I don't think that decision has been made.
I saw you on your social media account, very declarative that Justin Fields wasn't going anywhere when I posted something saying that next Sunday could be his last game at Soldier Field. What makes you so convinced that he's not going anywhere?
Wow. It's a great question. And I got a lot of reasons for it. I should have pulled up the article I just wrote for Windy City Gridiron that'll be posted a little later today. So I have the exact years going back to 2015. First, there is no guarantee that if they end up with the first pick, even the second pick, because they're going to get one or the other, that if you take a quarterback there, he's going to be the answer. You go back to 2015, like I said, I did the research when I was writing this article, so I don't have the exact stuff in front of me. The 2015, Jameis Winston and Mariota went 1-2.
Yes.
You could say both are busts.
Yeah.
Okay. Next year, can you pull up the 16 draft? That'll help me, because then.
Yep. 2016 NFL draft coming up. All right. So, oops. I'll put it up on the screen here in 5 seconds. Oops. Wrong button. Give me 10 seconds. All right. So Jared Goff goes
okay,
one.
Jared Goff and Carson Wentz.
Oops. Where'd it go?
Goff can't get the job done in LA. They end up trading him for another guy who was a first overall pick, Matthew Stafford from 2009, who had an up and great, couldn't win a game in Detroit, but had great stats. And then takes his first year, takes the Rams to the Super Bowl, but has been very so-so ever since. Carson Wentz, bust. Okay, now can you pull up the next one then? 2017.
Sure can.
Which I think is Baker Mayfield, isn't it?
That is the Baker Mayfield draft. No, that's Myles Garrett goes
first. Myles Garrett. Oh, Mitch Trubisky. Okay, so the first quarterback is Mitch Trubisky, and then the 10th overall pick in that draft is the guy who's the best quarterback and one of the best players in that draft. You can't take anything. Myles Garrett's one of the best players too, but that's Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
So now that's 3 years in a row where the first quarterback hasn't lived up to expectations. Then the following year is Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold.
That's right.
I won't call Mayfield a bust, but he's been a journeyman. He's already on his 5th team.
4th or 5th, yeah.
4th. I mean, he's been with the Browns, the Rams, the Panthers. Now he's with Tampa. Maybe his 4th team, but he's a journeyman. He's hot and cold. He's never gonna win anybody a championship or even come close to winning them a championship. Sam Darnold's the next guy, goes at 2. Then Buffalo trades up to 7 to take Josh Allen. Who's the best player? Josh Allen.
Yeah.
So and after Patrick Mahomes, he might be the next great quarterback in the league. And then you can fast forward to the 21 draft, and there's a little caveat with the 20 and 21 draft. But the 21 draft is the Justin Fields draft. Lawrence has been good. Has he been lights out? No, he's been good. But then Zach Wilson, bust. Trey Lance, bust. And then you go down to where the Bears got Fields, and Fields is the second best quarterback in that draft. But the whole point being, I mean, you got several examples there where these top quarterbacks haven't done a damn thing. So what's the guarantee that you could take a play? And I'm going to say this right now. Caleb Williams is not a lock to be the first quarterback off the board. I've talked to too many people now that are so concerned. He didn't have a bad second half of the season. He had a horrible second half of the season, starting with the Notre Dame game, and he never recovered. So that's a big concern. We talked about that before because, what you got to find out is why. Why did that happen? There's no question he has great talent, but what's going on upstairs? that caused him to have that drop off? And can you trust him trust him in the hopes that that'll never happen again, especially if you get him? But I mean, there's a huge risk there. I sent a text. I haven't gotten anything back yet to a friend of mine, and not Chris, trying to find out if I'm wrong in saying that, because now, granted, I know there's individuals that have other quarterbacks as QB1. I know that for a fact. It's too early to say any team or let me rephrase that, how teams have quarterbacks lined up, because they go through a process, and I think we're going to talk about that today. It's a long, drawn-out process. And really, the football season is only the first third, the first half of it. That gives you the tape, and you go back and you got to look at the previous tape. But bottom line is, who's to say that any of the quarterbacks they could draft this year is going to be any better than Justin Fields?
Mm-hmm.
And what you're saying by doing it is you're saying, okay, this guy wasn't the answer, so we're going to a rookie next year, but we're going to lose, so be patient, because that's right. What's going to happen.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think, based on what they've done, like with the trade for Tez and some of the free agent signings, I just don't see them doing that. I think they're trying to go forward, not backwards.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest point there. I mean, you made a lot of good points there, Greg, but that's the biggest point. I think that they want to maintain the continuity. Ryan Poles said in a pregame show on his radio show before a Bears game that he feels that the team is close. I forgot what the word was, elite maybe, that they were getting close to being an elite football team. And so for them to get there, they're not going to get there by starting over at the quarterback position. They can't be almost.
You're going backwards. You're stepping back. You're punting. It's 4th and long. You're punting, and you're saying, I hope the next guy works.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know, and it's been proven time after time after time, and nobody can tell me that Caleb Williams. Now, in September, did I think he might be a generational quarterback? Yes, but his play proved different. His play, like I said, he fell off the damn charts as far as I'm concerned with this second half of the season play. And I'm not taking anything away with Drake May. In fact, I know people that think Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. A couple of people in the chat have brought up his name. In fact, Michael Henneman said Jaden Daniels was the best.
He won the Heisman Trophy, the Heisman Trophy and best player, and the Heisman Trophy does not equal you're going to be a great NFL player.
That's
never
for sure.
has. But just the way he has improved, I saw somebody said, "Well, he doesn't have an arm." Are they freaking crazy? He's got a cannon. Now, he doesn't have Josh Allen's arm, but he's got – I saw in one game the ball was like 62 yards in the air.
Mm-hmm.
That's a strong arm.
Yeah.
And he can fire it when he has to. And how the last 2 years he's averaged over 1,000 yards. He had like 1,100 yards rushing this year, 800 something last year. He was at Arizona State for 3 years. His passing completion percentage over the last 2 years is 70%, and he doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
So, and he plays in an offense that is, but it's similar. It's more pro style than a lot of college offenses. That's probably the best way to put it. Excuse me. Need a drink.
Take as much as you want there. And Cliff Victoria.
Put some bourbon in there.
But, no, don't do that. Do that later tonight. Cliff says Fields cost $6 million next year, and Cliff is very good with his stats and figures. So that's a bargain price for Justin Fields next season.
Right. And people say, well, it's going to cost. I'm seeing stuff on X. It's going to cost you $50 million contract. The hell it is. He hasn't earned that yet.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be putting numbers out there because, first of all, if I'm the Bears, I do what the Giants did with Daniel Jones. I do not pick up his 5th-year option. Put the pressure on him to prove it. And if he proves it, pay him. He earned it.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and if he doesn't, then here's what's going to happen. If you trade that pick, they're going to have 2 number ones next year again. That's a lock. And probably because the team's going to use that on a quarterback, it's probably going to be another high one. Just like Carolina. Is it going to be one? Who the hell knows? But it's probably going to be another high one. They will be in position that they can do it again next year if they want. I just don't think they want to do that right now.
Right.
Could I be totally wrong? Absolutely, I could be wrong. But it's my gut feeling based on things that poll says, and just watching, looking at the college players and saying, am I going to gamble on that? Because in essence, he's gambling his career, or he's betting his career on that move. Because if it fails, he fails.
Jimmy Tony says, this is crazy. This was Justin's year to prove, and he still isn't good. Tell me why Jimmy Tony is wrong on
because
that.
The offensive coaching sucks. And that's not his fault. That's not Justin's fault. We have sat here how many times, and you could listen to anybody in Chicago. Listen, everybody complains about the play calling. Play calling is atrocious. I think I said last week on here, this guy, and I've had my doubts with Justin too, but then I started to really think about it. But since this guy came into the league, it's his 3rd year. He hasn't been coached yet.
Yeah.
He really hasn't. Look what happened to Tua. And everybody wanted to run Tua out of town in Miami. They get a new coach, and look what happens.
See, that's the thing, Greg, is I think the 2 biggest things that benefited his game was getting a offensive genius like McDaniel in there. But the second thing is Tyreek Hill. And that's why I'm not saying the Bears should draft Marvin Harrison, but one of those top receivers, there's 4 or 5 of them that are guys that are almost guaranteed success in the National Football League. You give Justin Fields another weapon alongside DJ Moore, and then you make some fortification of the offensive line, then I think that we're ready to rock and roll with some adjustments with the coaching staff too.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I just don't agree that they will take a wide receiver in the top 4.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that.
Okay. And I also don't believe Marvin Harrison, and I'm being sacrilegious here because all these people got him anointed. Guess what? There's other people in the league that don't think so either. They think Malik Neighbors is wide receiver number 1.
Yeah.
And when you watch the tape back to back, he's clearly number 1. He's tougher. He plays faster. It remains to be seen who actually runs faster. His run after the catches might be as good as anybody in football. And he's a better route runner. So Marvin Harrison's taller. Yeah. And he's got a Hall of Fame father. So what? And I'm not taking, he's a great player. No question about him. I think Malik Neighbors is a better football player.
Free Palestine says the best wide receiver comes from LSU. And I think that whoever this wide receiver is that they're going to acquire, and I know they're going to acquire one, whether it's round 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, has to be a good blocking receiver, because the identity of this team truly is that they're first and foremost a running team. Am I right or wrong, Greg?
No, I agree with you, but you're not going to get a guy coming out of college who was a good blocker in college, unless it was rare. Because okay. In fact, watching Sunday's game, there was a guy who might have been the smallest receiver on the field who threw a couple damn good blocks, and that was Scott. That little son of a bitch, threw his body at people and smacked them. And did he do that in Cincinnati last year? Hell no, because he didn't have to.
Yeah.
So that was to me, that was impressive that he did that. So, and that's part of the culture. If there was some positive on the offensive side of the ball with the coaching, that's part of it. Mm-hmm. And Tyke Tolbert does a great job because it's like getting those guys to buy in. You want to play? You got to do two things. You got to block and catch the ball.
Yeah. Nick, I'm going to save that comment for later because I want Greg to talk about it, but I want to stay on the topic of Justin Fields. After the game Sunday, Fields was asked about that lull. They scored 21 points, and all of a sudden the offense gets into a lull. They don't have anything going on. And so he talked about it, and then I think this was the follow-up question was something like, do you talk to Luke Getsy and present your ideas on how to get out of the lull? And this is what he said.
First half, everything was working. So I don't think it's necessarily the play calls. I just think it was us. I think, I had a long run, holding call, got back, it was multiple holding calls. So, I think it's not more about Luke or the play call and stuff like that. It's about us bringing the plays to life and us executing the plays we get because we have them in there for a reason. We trust our coaches. We trust each other. So it's about us just, taking each play at a time and really just executing. 21-0, you got to have that mindset that it's 0-0, just started the game. So that's what I was trying to get our guys to do. And, we're going to continue getting better, continue to, play like we did in the first quarter throughout the whole game. So, yeah.
I trust the coaching staff. We as players have to do better. Your reaction to that?
Well, that's a true statement. And you go back, that holding call on Patrick, which, by the way, was not a hold. That was one of the worst calls in the game. That took away a scoring opportunity. Worst case scenario is they get 3 out of that drive. Okay, and they end up having to kick the ball away. So he was right. He also was playing, politics there. Make sure I say the right things. Mm-hmm. But it's, they've kicked themselves in a few times this year too with inopportune penalties, whether you like the penalties or not. And that particular one was, I thought, a horrible call because when they did it from the end zone shot and he showed it, say, "Where's home?"
Yeah, exactly. I
mean, he had his hand like this. It was about, you can't see me there, but that wasn't even close to a hold. Mm-hmm. It's like, what was this guy saying? I'm thinking there was a couple calls in that game. I'm thinking, Arizona in this game? Yeah, serious.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, and that different topic for a different day. Maybe we can talk about this during the off season. Is I really do think that the NFL has to address this issue with the NFL officials because I've probably seen more games than ever in my entire life this season, and it's just throughout the league,
Every game, every game there is calls that you go, what the hell? I was watching a little of the Giants game last night. The Giants are trying to come back and tie the game up on that final drive. Mm-hmm. And they didn't call an interference call on the Giant receiver along the left sideline. He didn't get interfered with. He got freaking mugged. Mm-hmm. No flag whatsoever, especially when they did the play over. Yeah. I mean, it was clear as day that there was interference. Yet no flag. We'll let him play.
Staying on the topic of quarterback-coordinator relationship, the cameras appeared to catch Justin Fields screaming at the sideline, screaming at Luke Getsy because the reaction shot the cameras had was of Luke Getsy. So it appeared like he was telling him, hurry up, get the play in or something. Don't know what it was. Did you see that moment? And if so, do you have a reaction to it?
No, I didn't see it. I have to redo the whole game, and not the thing, which I did record. When did that happen? That could speed up the process. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter.
No, I'm pretty sure it was in the third quarter, middle of the third quarter. I'll try to find some more information on that. Why don't we talk about something else, and then we'll come back to that if I can find the video or more information. So the offense as a whole comes out and scores 21 points. And there was a lack of execution by the players. Justin is totally right about that. But there still seems to be, as you mentioned earlier in the show, there still seems to be something missing from this offensive play calling. Fire.
Yeah, to me, it's fire, intensity.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, start off the set. And actually, Justin said it. We got to play like it's 0-0. It's the start of the game, and you come out excited, and you're playing aggressively. When you got a team with a losing record like the Bears have, you can't take anything for granted, even a 21-0 lead. Right. You got to play hard.
The other thing about that is, the players have talked about complacency. Justin mentioned it on Sunday's press conference with that, I think, very cool looking sweater. Some people don't.
I liked it too. That was really sharp.
Yeah, us old guys like it. All right, you young bloods. So anyway,
I got a sweater for Christmas. I might wear it next week.
Oh, awesome. So Justin used the word complacency. Maybe we got too complacent and so forth. Players used it last week and so forth. And I think we've talked about this before, and you told me I was wrong, but I do feel like that's on the position coaches. They got to keep their players focused. They got to keep them fired up. And if you don't have somebody on the team that goes around and yells at players like a Patrick Mahomes does to his offensive line and blah, 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 then the coaches have to step up and do that. Don't you think?
Well, it's a combination of the two. I mean, Your leaders on your team got to help fire, but it is the coach's job.
Mm-hmm.
But the coach's job is to make instantaneous, what's the word I want? Corrections. When there's a mistake, because now they can't show video on the sideline, but they got the still pictures that they get right away, and they can go through those things, so it's almost like video, and they got to point out, hey, look at. If you did this instead of this, or whatever, but you got to make those corrections so that they don't make the same mistake again. Yeah.
And, McFact says a lack of creativity is what's missing from Getsy's play calling. I agree with that to a degree, but I do think that the creativity has gone off the charts with a lot of the play callers. They're trying to surprise people. Did you see that call Matt Nagy had for the I'm assuming it was Matt Nagy because it really seemed like a Matt Nagy play call.
Good thing, because I watched a little of that game, but was I paying attention to who was calling the plays? Andy Reid calls the plays. Now, he'll let Nagy, maybe 2 or 3 times during the year call the plays, but usually they're meaningless games after they've locked things up or whatever. And that was an important game. I'd have to go back and watch so you can actually see when they're on the sideline who's calling the plays. But
sure.
That for 90% of the time during the year, Andy Reid's the guy calling plays. And I've seen Nagy, on social media take a beating the last couple of days. It might be for naught because the beating should be to Andy Reid.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to also, one other thing I want to share with you. Here are Justin's stats from this season, from the 11 games, 10 games he's played this season. He's got a completion percentage of 61%
61%.
2,146 yards. But I think what a mistake that everyone makes is that they don't account for the rushing yards, the 585. So you need to almost kind of total those up when you're comparing quarterbacks. He's got about 2,700 yards of offense in the games that he started. And I'm going to double check the games he started is 11.
Right, he missed 4. He really missed 5 because he got hurt early, fairly early. In that first game against Minnesota, I think he got hurt beginning of the second half.
Right.
I was watching the presser of the Arizona coach here in the week, and the Arizona media was asking him about Fields, looking for him to see if he's going to badmouth Fields or whatever, because the narrative is Justin Fields isn't any good, and Gannon completely turned that around on him and say, hey, I was with Philly last year.
Mm-hmm.
He almost single-handedly beat us with his feet. Don't tell me he can't play.
Yeah, I hear you.
And he is, because of who he is a bitch to defense. And so, yeah, does he have a perfect game? No, far from it. But he's got a unique skill set that puts a lot of pressure on the defense. They got to do things they don't ordinarily do because he's the quarterback of the Chicago Bears.
Jamal says you can't total up the rushing yards with his passing yards, Aldo, and you're right. But you can say total yards he's responsible for. He generated that offense. If you're going to say that, Dak Prescott had 4,000 yards of passing offense and only 100 yards rushing, and that's a bad example because I know he's got more. I don't know the numbers exactly, but you do have to account for the rushing yards on these athletic quarterbacks as part of their offensive output.
Total offense. It's total offense, and it is part of it because there's pass plays that break down that he's had plays that scramble that he's taken 50 yards to the house.
Mm-hmm.
That might have been a 10-yard completion had he thrown the ball.
Yeah.
He has the ability to turn a game around. But I think you need more consistency within the offense. I broken record. The offensive play calling sucks. It does not play into his strengths. It does not utilize a lot of the weapons on the field that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And what the hell? I'm going brain dead here. My age is coming in. Their backup tight end.
Mercedes Lewis or Robert Tonyan?
No, not Mercedes. Tonyan. Tonyan 2 years in a row had 50+ catches.
Mm-hmm.
He might not have 25 targets
exactly
all year, and it's a similar offense. And you can't tell me that his play dropped off like that. That doesn't happen.
Exactly.
And people want to bitch about Mooney. I'm done with Mooney. Yeah, he's had a couple drops. But Mooney caught everything his first 2 years. He got open all the time. These people come in. He's not a part of the offense. Is that Mooney's fault?
No, I mean, that's the $64,000 question, if I can use the old game show reference. Is Darnell Mooney lacking in production because Justin Fields gets tunnel vision and doesn't see the secondary and third options as quickly as some of the other quarterbacks in the league? That's one of my biggest concerns with Justin.
And it's a legitimate thing, but there was plays. In fact, they showed it. There was a completion. I don't remember what part of the game, but he went through a full progression.
Mm-hmm.
You could see him. He went to the left, to the right, back to the left, threw the ball. And so, that was one example. Now, does he do it all the time? No. Is there people he missed? Like the interception to Herbert, DJ was open on a post. But Herbert was open too. He underthrew the ball. What we don't know is who was number one, who was number two.
Mm-hmm.
Herbert very well could have been number one, and he was open. He threw the ball. He underthrew it. But DJ was open. Actually, DJ was probably more open.
Mm-hmm.
And with the post pattern in the middle of the end zone.
Yeah. I'm collecting questions. I got 6 in the queue. I'm going to start with this one because it's on topic. August Day says, enlighten me, Greg. What is playing to his strengths? What are the strengths of Justin Fields?
Use his athleticism to his advantage. In other words, use more rollouts, boots, those type of things. More play action type things. There's just a lot of stuff. You and I can sit here and you can almost tell by the formation what the hell they're going to do. And that's what can be frustrating. Like they got down to first and goal from the 6-yard line. What's he do? He goes back to the well and he calls a boot, or not a boot, rather a bubble, and right away hit with a 2-yard loss.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
It's like, come on, man.
Swifty adds that Fields' strengths are play action, deep shots, rollouts, bootlegs, moving pockets, etc. You have a visitor
here, but my stepdaughter is opening the door. So, but let me just shut the door. 1 second.
Oh, you bet. So I'll add to that. Justin's strengths are also, throwing the deep ball, whether it's off a play action or not. I'd love to see him do that more often. And you cannot discount that the connection between quarterback Justin Fields and DJ Moore is outstanding. DJ Moore, Greg, I was just telling the audience that DJ Moore and Justin Fields have one of the best quarterback receiver combinations statistically in the entire league. And you can add Cole Kmet and Justin Fields. And so now what we have to do to progress the quarterback is to get some supplementary guys that can pitch in and expand the offense from a passing from a passing perspective.
And I'm going to add this to it. And could I be wrong? Yes. But I think that's Getsy's job, the OC's job.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, here, this is the guy. This is the guy. You know what I mean? It's going through. This is and you keep drilling it into his head, and that helps him evolve.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say, what we don't know because we're not in the meeting rooms. They could be telling him, go to Kmet, go to DJ, go to Kmet, go to DJ. You don't know the answer to that because we're not there.
Yeah. Bellissimo says that Justin is a multiplier, but you can't make the best use of it by removing threats from the defense entirely. The reliance solely on gun and option looks dumb. Run a balanced offense that threatens people. I think that's a great point by Bellissimo.
No,
maybe he should apply for that OC job.
It is a good point, but what they don't do enough of is stuff too. They do too much of the same thing.
Yeah.
Game after game after game. And there's no creativity within the offense. The defense seems to know exactly. They're very predictable. When teams go into a game, they got, I call them GAs, the quality control guys and stuff, and the pro guys. They're breaking down opponents' tape. So they're looking, okay, these are the tendencies. You get into a 3rd and 5 to a 3rd and 7. They're going to call this, or this, and you can almost tell by the formation what they're going to do. And it's like the tendencies of the Bears haven't changed all year.
Yeah, exactly. It is sad. Let me ask you about this offensive line, because I've started to grow a little bit of a concern over the offensive line because of their play the last 2 games. Tevin Jenkins is such an injury risk. It's really difficult to say, all right, let's sign this guy to a contract extension, because he is rarely, it maybe never, going to give you a 17-game season. Braxton Jones, the last 2 games, has not played as well as he should at this point in his young career. I'm not saying give up on. Yeah, he doesn't look himself. You're right. Yeah. So, what is your level of concern with the offensive line?
And actually, the overall run blocking this past week was excellent.
Yeah.
You go back to look. I follow Olin during the game and look at his contents, and he was, very complimentary of the run blocking. Yeah, the pass blocking is a work in progress. I don't think that Braxton is 100%. And then he got dinged up, but he showed his toughness. He stayed in the game.
Mm-hmm.
He got up real slow. Looked like it might have been a knee or something.
Mm-hmm.
When you have Tevin out, you got Whitehair in there. You got to give Whitehair some help at times. And that takes away from the overall ability of the line. And Tevin, I think he got hurt in the first half last week. So you had Whitehair in there a good part of the game. I don't call a concussion an injury. You got hit in the wrong place and your bell got rung, and the league, really goes hard on that in that, you got to be perfect to come back in or to clear concussion protocol. Like, the wide receiver for the Colts, he cleared concussion protocol on Friday, and then they're flying to wherever their game was, and the symptoms, probably the flight itself probably hurt, and symptoms came up, and they had to put him back in protocol. So that back, a knee, an ankle, I put those in injury prone, but not concussion. That's just an unlucky hit. He got walloped in the head, and in this game, that's going to happen. I mean, you can't. It's when a guy gets too many concussions, like I have, and then you become a bumbling idiot like me. I've had at least 6.
Whoa.
Like that.
That's a lot.
No, I had 6 in a short time.
Wow.
I had 6 in about a 3-year period.
Wow,
and it was in high school.
Oof. You're very fortunate to achieve all the success that you've had in your life after
I had
multiple.
I had 5 in high school. I had 1 when I was playing minor league football. And by that point, I knew what a concussion was, and that, what the reaction was. And I mean, I got hit. It was a helmet to helmet thing, and I literally did see stars. And but then this was in the late 70s. And I said, I'm not playing next week. I know I had a concussion. And then, they jump on me. Pussy. Yeah. And it's like, different world then versus now.
Yeah. Wow. That's not a fun thing to experience. I mean, I'm sure of that.
No, I'll be honest with you. I asked my doctor about this, about when all this stuff started, 10 years ago or so.
Right.
And I said, should I be worried? Because I know I've had 6 documented concussions. Could I have had more? Maybe, but I know I had 6. He said, "You all right now, aren't you?" And I said, "I don't know. You think I'm normal?" So he said, "Don't worry about it." But
yeah, I think he's giving you some good advice. You're for a man your age, you're extremely clear-minded and focused, and you write really well. So let's not worry about that. Let's worry about the Bears offensive line. I think that's the issue. But let's talk a little bit about scouting for a quarterback. If the Bears, I'm sure the Bears have.
Talk a little bit. This is a dissertation.
All right, so take it away. The topic is evaluating quarterbacks at the college level.
Yeah, it's number one. It's a very imperfect science, and just using that exercise that we did at the beginning of the show is proof right there. Because everybody makes mistakes. Some of the best evaluators in the world make mistakes at that position. And you got to have somebody who really knows and understands the quarterback position. And with me, I can watch all the tape I want of a player. And that tells me physically what he can do. And that's what you're getting during the course of his final season in college football, or his final 2 years in college football. But it's not until after the season's over that you can really get into the nitty-gritty of the evaluation. And part of that is finding out what's going on up here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different tests that they do. They do it with the All-Star games. They do it at the Combine. And they're not the be-all, end-all. It's just another tool. Okay. But what's real important is finding out not just how smart he is, but how he thinks. What's his personality like? Is he a leader? That's imperative. If he isn't a leader, you don't got the guy. We can go back to that Kyle Bowler, the year we took Rex Grossman, and I think I told that story. And
yep.
Kyle Bowler was a bust, and everybody was in love with him because on one knee he could throw the ball tight spiral 75 yards in the air. Wow, big freaking deal, and but he had no confidence. None whatsoever. We had him in our room at the Combine for an interview, and it was our last interview of the night, so we could extend it a little bit longer than the normal 15. They're 20 minutes now. It was 15 minutes then, and so we're talking about when he was at Cal, and it's before Jeff Tedford came there as the coach because he had success under Tedford in his final year. But before that, they always lost. And so we asked him, how did you react to that? And he said, well, I always walked around campus with a hoodie, and I had the hood up. Why? Because I didn't want anybody to recognize me and see who I am. Right then and there, we made up our mind, we don't want him. He's not brash, bold, or confident enough to be a quarterback in the National Football League.
Yeah. You got to have some balls, some big balls.
You've got to have some confidence. You got to be able to lead men. You got to have a special personality. And the guys who are real successful, cockiness to a degree, but not cockiness to an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So so that part's important. Obviously, the X's and O's. Well, let me back up to the 20 and 21 season because of COVID. There are mistakes made, and two of the big mistakes were Wilson and Lynch in the 21 draft. And if you recall, there's no private workouts those 2 years. There's pro days in 21. But pro days for a quarterback are totally useless. So why are they useless? They're useless because the NFL coaches aren't really a part of the workout process. They're there to watch. The workout is a scripted workout made by the guy's quarterback guru, and it's a practice, totally rehearsed workout for weeks in advance. He knows everything he's going to do. They're geared to show all the strengths of the player and not show any weaknesses. And what you can't do is say, well, I want to see him do this. I want to see him do that. You can't do that. It's not the way those work out. So what do you got to do? You got to do a private workout. And private workouts aren't going to last. The throwing session at a pro quarterback's pro day might be 20 to 30 minutes because he might throw 60 footballs, and do some other drills. But all you're doing is seeing the physical that shows his strengths. You're not getting inside his head. So when you do a private workout, before you even go on the field, you're in the classroom. You might start the night before, take them out to dinner, get a feel for them. There's going to be a few that you might even bring a couple players because you could bring your own receivers to those if you want. There's no law against that. And you can, get a feel for his personality, get how he reacts to people within your organization. Then, like the next day, you get him in a meeting room and you start throwing your offense at him. And you say, this is what we do. And draw 4 or 5 plays up on the board and explain to him what goes on in those 4 or 5 plays. Then you change the subject, go back, go to something else, and then you come back. Okay, Joe, tell me what I told you 15 minutes ago. Draw play 1, play 2, play 3, and explain to me what they're supposed to do and why they're supposed to do it. And then you find out the retention and how quick, how good was he in taking notes, because he should be sitting there taking notes. And, how quickly can he absorb that and can he remember it? You also had him go through some of his own plays. Can he dissect his own plays? There's a quarterback, I'm not going to mention his name, was a first-round pick. Way back, total bust. I was told by a person I trust that when they got him on the board, he was totally clueless. He couldn't explain one thing. And so it was like, how did he take this? Well, they obviously didn't spend the time to do a private workout with him, because they would have found that out. They were looking at strictly the physical, which you can get on tape. But so you get through that, and then you're probably going to bring him in on a 30 visit too. And that to be more board work. I mean, it's just a ton of stuff that you do, and you can't do any of it until after the combine. So this is all March and April that you're doing this. Mm-hmm. And obviously you got to get them through the combine. And and who cares about the quarterback workout at the combine? That's as useless as a pro day. But it's the short interviews, how he reacts to going from team A to team B to team C to team D, and does he get agitated or whatever, or is he real lively in each thing? Because some teams will share notes on that, and it's just a pyramid of different little things that you use. And you do this with a lot of players, but with quarterbacks more than anybody else. So for people now to say Caleb Williams is a generational quarterback, well, we could say that going into the first part of October until he fell off the cliff. We still only got through 40 or 45% of the test. How good is he going to be on the board? How good is he going to be in interviews? What's he really know? What's his real football knowledge? And until you go through all that, everything we see on tape is meaningless, because that can change a lot of people's minds. And I say right now that if teams, like if you talk to the Jets or you talk to the 49ers, if they could have had private time with Trey Lance or with Wilson, would they have taken him? That might have changed their mind a whole lot.
All right. Great dissertation. You probably have some more to share with us. Or can we go to questions now?
We got questions.
Okay. Because
or somebody wants to ask me a question about that.
Well, D. Starren asked, doesn't the Wonderlic or whatever the test it is that they use now tell you a lot of that stuff that you just talked about?
Wonderlic is, I was going to use the phrase, but I shouldn't use it. Wonderlic, a Wonderlic test is useless, and it's been outdated for 20 years. Okay, I don't know if they still are, but the Wonderlic, the corporation that does that, used to be here in Chicago. Whether it still is, I don't know. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think they were in Libertyville at the time. And we had them come in when our scouts were in February. We had the guy from one of the people from Wonderlic, the bigwigs, come in and explain the test and what the test was all about and what you're supposed to get out of the test. Well, I found out one big thing, the most important thing. That test is geared to be taken once and one time only. Okay. Under optimum conditions, quiet room, you got 12 minutes, nobody interrupts the person taking the test, etc. Well, in today's world, at these different sites, that the kids go to prep for the combine, and they're there for 4 to 6 weeks. They're taking Wonderlic tests every freaking day. Sometimes 2 a day because it's only a 12-minute test. So they're taking the test over and over again. Now, are they taking the same test because there's about 10, 12 different forms, but they're all very similar. They start out with very easy questions, and there's 50 questions, and they get progressively harder with each question. But according to the people from Wonderlic, the more times you take the test, you get to understand how the test is given. And so you're just automatically going to get a better score. Okay, well, that's good. So we know these guys practice taking the test. How do we know if what he scored is a true indicator of his intelligence? And basically, it's a raw intelligence test.
Yeah.
He said, go back and look at the very first time you took the test. Let's say the guy got a very average score and got an 18. Okay. And he goes, if in a subsequent test, if he scores more than 4 points higher, throw it out. Means nothing. He's taken the test too many times and just throw it. So we started doing that. We'd use the original test number. There was a player, a wide receiver, whose agent was, who is now among the faithful departed, was one of the first that figured out, well, I'm going to keep giving my guy the test every day as he's getting ready. He had a 27, which is a damn good score the first time he took the test. He got a 48 at the combine. Come on, fucking Einstein gets a 48. You know what I mean? Yes. So he did it because he had taken so many of the tests. He knew all the answers.
Of course.
So, I mean, so you can't count it. So, and you see that. So it got to a point where we were looking at, the different test scores, and you'd see guys' test scores jump 10, 12, 14 points. We just throw it out. It was worthless. And the league finally caught on. I mean, they still do it because there's people that want to have that information, but there's other tests that are really more valid and test intelligence better. And everybody subscribes to one of the services that do that testing. And then they came out, there's not enough data on it. There was getting a lot of pub last year. It's called the S2 or the C2 or something like that, but it was fairly new.
Yeah.
It
is called the S2 cognition test.
Okay. Stroud did not score very good at it.
He was the worst.
He's the worst. Yeah, and he's also the best quarterback in the rookie class. So,
exactly. Yeah, CBS Sports.
But I remember.
I just want to say CBS Sports reported that Stroud took the test multiple times and scored the lowest of all the 2023 quarterback prospects with 18% out of 100. That's ridiculous.
Okay, so then you ask the question, did he take it seriously? What you got to know. So it's a tool. How important is it? It hasn't been around long enough to say that it's meaningful. There's only a couple years of data on it, using the test. And so that's the one thing about the Wonderlic. I mean, the data, they were using the Wonderlic long before I got in this business, and I got it in 1981. So I mean, they've been doing it forever. So, they probably did it when Jesus Christ was alive. They just didn't call it the Wonderlic test. But, it's, I probably went a little overboard on that, but yeah. To answer
no, you're fine.
Throw out the Wonderlic. There's other stuff that all the teams use that are a lot more useful. And then there's psychological tests they take too. Mm-hmm. And there's I mean, they spend one day at the combine doing nothing but taking tests. There's personality profile. When I was with the Giants, we did a personality profile thing, and we had done it for so many years that you could find, we had the data to find, okay, for an offensive lineman, his personality, the optimum offensive lineman should be in this range here. The optimum defensive lineman should be in this range here. And usually that range is he should be a thug. But, because it's the position that he plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. Let's get to some of these questions because we got some good ones here, Greg. MMA Tip 123 asks, how do you feel about Justin Fields' mechanics? He seems to still have poor throwing mechanics and a bad hitch and poor anticipation in year 3. Your thoughts on those mechanic issues?
Go back and look at his first year. He had a bad hitch.
Mm-hmm.
Where you would drop the ball like this. Where's my
Where's your football?
Over here. I got to get it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that I know that Luke Getzey has said a couple times.
Game ball here.
Oh, look at that. That's a beauty.
But
I know that Luke Getzey has said a couple times when evaluating Fields that he's taken an extra hitch when he doesn't need to.
Okay. So coming out of when he was in college and he was a rookie, he would go back and he'd go like this with every throw. Okay, that takes time. Okay, he has fixed that considerably, where he's more like this. You prefer this, but it's really that it's not a lot of time, but it's enough time for a quality defensive back to anticipate where that ball's going and get a jump on the ball. So
right.
Yeah, it's a deal, but I think that it is hugely improved since his rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to hitch because we've talked about it here. Just showing. There's been video of him, and we say, look at how he's tightened his delivery a little bit.
Absolutely. In the very first play of the game, he threw a 7-yard out to Cole Kmet, and Mark Sanchez, the analyst with CBS Sports, said it's just a little off timing. And I pointed it out on X that I do agree with Sanchez is that these timing passes sometimes are a microsecond, a nanosecond, or even a full second late with the timing. And I got a lot of pushback saying Cole Kmet, rounded out the route.
You were breaking up there. I didn't hear everything you said there.
Yeah, but so my question is, do you think his timing can considerably improve?
Yes. I think that's part of the experience thing. Should it be better at this point? Yes. Look, there's not a player. I really think that people get overly critical or overly picky about little things. He's never going to be the perfect player. What you want him to be, because he's got a special skill set that very few have, is you want him to be a winning quarterback in the league. And it took Lamar Jackson a while.
Yeah.
Took Lamar Jackson into his fourth year, really. He couldn't hit water from a boat as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing when he was at Louisville. But you work at it, your repetition. But part of it is he had, for the first part of his career, he had the same coordinator, played the same offense. And so that helped him. I'm willing to bet right now that if he's here next year, and I believe he will be, that it'll be his third offense in 4 years with the Chicago Bears. Unless they could hire somebody who runs the same basic offense, terminology and everything else. And then the changeover would be really nothing. It's really how the plays are called. And that probably would be the best thing, but is a person who runs a very similar type offense, is he going to be the guy that ends up being the OC? And I think regardless of who the head coach is, the OC is going to be different next year.
But hopefully not run a totally different type of offense to put more stress on Justin.
The scheme itself is very good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scheme that LA runs. It's a scheme that Houston runs now. It's a scheme San Francisco runs. Green Bay ran with Rodgers. They're running now with Love. The scheme works. It's how you use that scheme. Mm-hmm. How the makeup of the plays might not be the same from team to team. That falls on the coordinator and how you call the plays, right. What you think is going to work and not going to work against a particular defense. And so that's what the difference is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Christian Mercado, we've been saying that for quite some time. A proven offensive coordinator would have been the best hire. And I think, Luke Getsy is going to have success in this league. I don't think he's terrible at what he does. He's just failed to apply an offense for the strengths of his team.
He's not a play caller, is what he is.
That's probably
you got to have a feel. And the way I can argue with one point you made is like, now, McDaniel at Miami, everybody said, he's a boy wonder genius, right?
Mm-hmm.
He never called plays till he went to Miami.
Yeah.
Shanahan called the plays.
Right.
Okay. So he had the title OC, but he wasn't the play caller. So I think it's a little bit of a fallacy that it's got to be, quote, an experienced coordinator or an experienced play caller. No, it's what's upstairs.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, Greg. When you interview for somebody who's going to potentially be the play caller for your football team, do you put him through tests? Like when I've interviewed out 1,000 people in my corporate career, and I put them in situations. So if this happens and this happens, what do you do? Do you do that with an offensive coordinator? Okay, it's 3rd down and 5 in this situation from Game 6, the Chicago Bears versus the Commanders. What would you call here? Do you do that?
Well, it's pretty hard to do that exact drill because you'd have to have an exact defense. Mm-hmm. And draw up what their tendencies are in a play situation, and then what your what your call sheet looks like. Does that
mm-hmm.
make sense?
Sure does.
And so that makes it very difficult to do. But and I'll go back to when Flus hired Getsy. Getsy already had predetermined, and I found this out, from Pep because Pep interviewed for the OC job. Is that when he got this job, he already had set in his mind he wanted to run this Shanahan, LaFleur, McVay offense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because he felt that was a very difficult scheme to handle. So he got what he thought was the best guy to do that. He didn't get the right guy. He might have the right scheme. He didn't get the right guy. Okay, and so like in Pep's case, no matter what Pep was going to say, he knew basically by what Lewis was telling him, he wasn't going to get the job because he didn't run the right type of scheme that he wanted. So if he still wants that scheme, I got a name, if that's the case, that everybody I've talked to, and there's still more people I want to talk to, would be pretty quality guy.
Mm-hmm.
And his name is Liam Cohen.
Liam Cohen.
Yeah. So who the hell is Liam Cohen?
I was just going to ask that.
Okay. He right now is the OC at Kentucky. Now, he's bounced around over the last couple of years between Kentucky and the Rams. Before he went to Kentucky, he was on the Rams first as a quality control and the assistant quarterback coach and stuff. Then he gets the OC job in Kentucky for the 21 season. And Will Levis has this crazy good season in 21, where he had transferred in from Penn State, I think it was, to Kentucky. Kentucky had one of their best all-time seasons. Levis had their offense was very explosive, and they had some good players besides Levis. And Levis looked like a potential first-round pick. Well, following that season, he did so good, McVay brought him back to the Rams for the 22 season, and he was elevated to OC. But as OC, he didn't call the plays because McVay calls the plays. Like you're at San Francisco, Shanahan calls the plays.
Right.
Had a lot to do with what was going to be done on Sunday, but did not make the actual play calls. So at the end of the season, he goes, I want to call the plays. I want to be in total charge of what goes on on the field. So he went back to Kentucky. And where he was, this year and had enough, they went to a bowl game. He didn't have anywhere near the players that he had in 21 with Will Levis and some of those receivers. But he was one I'm trying to make, and he grew up in the league. His dad was a lifelong, and I know his dad was a lifelong front office exec. And, with Scott Cohen, with several different teams. So that would be a name that I'd interview. Do I give him the job? I don't know, because, you got to see what the interview is.
Sure.
And does he want to leave Kentucky? You don't know that. But an OC job in the NFL is going to pay a lot more than an OC job at the University of Kentucky.
I think so. All right, let's get to some more questions here. Drew Black asked a question. You were talking about gambles, taking a gamble on drafting a quarterback. And Drew asks, isn't it a gamble to bet on Fields one more year with potentially a new OC? Your thoughts?
That's why Ryan Poles gets the big bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I make $1.25 now. So
if that.
It's these guys live, eat, drink football 24/7. They know what he can do, what he can't do. They know what he should be doing. They know what he's capable of doing. And they also know that if one of the reasons he hasn't excelled the way you want him to excel, if that reason is more coaching than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So while it's my guess. Nobody's told me anything, and I'm not about to send a text to Ryan Poles because I know he'd say, I ain't telling you shit. Why should I? I just think that when you put it all together, he's going to say that's what gives us the best chance.
Yeah.
Could I be wrong? Absolutely, I could be wrong. I mean, Bigsy swears it's the other way. Yeah. I know nobody's told Bigsy anything. That's his gut feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny that a lot of people in the media feel that way, like Brad feels. And then there are a lot of people who have been associated with the game who feel like Justin is going to be here for year 4. So interesting.
Well, I'll tell you what. Now you pull the players in the locker room.
Oh,
there's no doubt.
Yep, indeed, and that counts.
And that is a big part of the equation.
Yeah. Josh wants to know what your thoughts are on Greg Roman. Would he be a fit here for a head coach position or maybe even offensive coordinator? Because I don't think he's employed right now.
He's not. Doesn't that tell you something?
Yeah, it tells me he's an asshole.
No, he's had some success, but he's also had failure.
Yeah.
Okay, and He's had success with a Justin Fields type quarterback and Lamar Jackson. I don't know Greg Roman. So, but I know that what the numbers say different, but reality isn't, is that when he was in Buffalo, it didn't go very well. The numbers said it went well, but no, they let him go. Fired.
Interesting.
And Baltimore, Harbaugh said, enough is enough. I got to make a change. And it turned out the change was for the better. So it's a name. Is it a good name? Well, you're going to be running something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Whether he's going to be doing something similar, I don't have the answer to that. I don't know. Because I don't know exactly what he runs. So would it be a name you want to talk to? Probably.
Yeah.
But is it going to be the name? I mean, Pep would be a name you want to talk to again. But who's he actually going to pick? You better pick a guy that has a way of developing quarterbacks. And that's why I lean towards Pep. I mean, Justin Herbert had a great rookie season. Who was his coach? Pep Hamilton.
That's right. Yep.
Andrew Luck was the first pick in the draft. Who was his coach at Stanford? Pep Hamilton. Andrew Luck was the rookie of the year in the National Football League and had a great early career. Who was his coach? Pep Hamilton. He's got the skins on the wall.
Let's give Pep a call. All right, some more questions here. Dobbsy, do we have enough proof that A, Justin Fields needs more weapons, B, offensive coordinator doesn't know how to string together a full game? I think we've talked about that and come to a conclusion, similar conclusion. Let's see. Nick, who had to bounce out of here because he was getting rude. The guy who developed Fields is single-handedly ruining Mahomes, but coaching doesn't mean shit to this brain-dead fan base. That's one of the reasons I threw him out of here. I don't like his tone. Dented Fender wanted to know, you talked about quarterback pressure last time. Can you explain how a QB pressure is counted? That's a great question because
I count QB pressure versus how Pro Football Focus counts, because I know how they count pressure. Pressure is you're having in my opinion, and how I was taught, is you have an effect on the play. You're changing the quarterback's trajectory. You're making him move in the pocket.
Yeah.
You bet. You cleanly, not just barely beat, you cleanly beat the offensive lineman, and you're forcing the quarterback to do something he doesn't want to do, get rid of the ball early, throw a bad throw, whatever. To me, that's a pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think Pro Football Focus thinks if you just turn the lineman a little bit, that's a pressure, because how they come up with all these numbers is just baffling to me.
It is.
And it works the same way with the offensive lineman. He gave up X amount of pressures. And you look at the tape and go, when? You don't see it.
Indeed. Steven wants to know, how does Tyson Bagent compare to this draft class? That's a great question. I'll rephrase it this way, Greg. Knowing what you know now about Tyson Bagent, you've seen him in start four pro games. If true hypothetical here, if he was coming out in this draft, is he a first rounder, second rounder, or a day 3 pick? What are your thoughts?
It's a good question, and it's a hypothetical that's almost impossible to answer, because you'd have to say, but he went to Penn State and he didn't go to Shepherd.
Right.
Knowing what I know now, and he went to Penn State or Notre Dame or Michigan versus Shepherd. What killed Tyson Bagent was Shepherd, not Tyson Bagent.
Yeah.
Division II, Pennsylvania League. There hadn't been any of those guys get drafted in the league. I'm not drafting you either.
Mhm.
So unless you change part of the equation to another school, and then you don't know how he would have played at another school. All I know is he does everything the right way. He works hard. He's a quick thinker. He processes. He gets rid of the ball. He throws his accuracy. He's got a strong arm. So he's got all the right tools.
So
all he needs is to play.
Yeah. So you're going into 2024 confident that he is more than adequate as a backup quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, he already passed the test.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
He won 2 games.
All right. OKC, Bear Boy, how many times does Fields have the chance to audible or receivers breaking off routes for blitz? Well, according to what Eberflus has said, Fields has opportunities to audible, but we don't know how much.
Yeah. There was somebody said to me on X that, when I made the sarcastic comment, another bubble, 2-yard loss. And the guy said, I think Justin audible to that. So I went replayed right then.
Right.
Went and replayed the play over. I said back, no, he didn't, because there was pre-snap motion before he was saying anything at the line, and so it was a set play. Okay. Could he have changed? Could he have changed a route? Could he have changed the protection or something? Yes, but he didn't change the play. The pre-snap motion and the lineup, and then the way they lined up on the right side, I almost told you they were going to do a bubble.
We got another question here about a potential coach. John Falsetta wants to know if you know anything about Rams quarterback coach Zach Robinson.
Well, that's one phone call away. And I can find out. I can find out a whole lot. But
this is what he looks like, if that helps.
I don't know anything about him. I know a guy who works for them really well.
We'll talk about it next week.
How many times can you go to the? Yeah, well, how many times, if I can get a hold of him, how many times can you go to the well and get a good drink of water? They keep stealing McVay's coaches, and how many times is he always going to make the right hire? So is the guy, because he works for McVay, a good coach? Liam Cohen has already proven himself as a play caller in college, but he's coached in the league for a number of years, brought up in the league, etc. So I think I don't know him, but I know what I'm getting based on the history. I don't know anything about this guy, and I'm just being cautious. I can make a phone call and find out from somebody that knows him real well, and he'd tell me.
Phyllis wants to know, is the scheme too difficult for Justin Fields? It is a very complicated scheme.
I don't think the scheme's too difficult. I just think that play calling is terrible.
Not helping. Let's see if Cliff wants to know. All right, so let's say we're not picking a wide receiver in the top 5 picks. What position, if you're looking at it just from a position standpoint, what position would you like to see the Bears draft?
I know what I'm taking. I'm taking an edge, but is that going to be the right player at that time?
Right.
Because you got to. I mean, put it this way: if Leighton from UCLA gets by the medical, he's a legitimate top 5 pick. But he's got to get by the medical.
Right. Yeah, that's the key one.
Can I find out if he gets by the medical? I think I can. Might be able to find that one out. But based on some connections, but I don't know if they'd even want me to say it publicly if I did find out. So, but I mean, that's going to be the key right there. Now, after that, who's the next? I mean, some people might say Jared Verse. Jared Verse is not number 2 for me, and I don't think he's worthy of a top 5. The next guy for me, and he hasn't declared yet, is Chop Robinson from Penn State.
Okay.
And but he hasn't declared that he's coming out yet, so might have to wait another year for him. So, we've got another few weeks. We got until there used to be a drop dead date of January 15th. They moved it up so we could bring players into the All-Star games till like January 7th or 8th. And then you still had the 15th date. But there can be, but they have to be juniors, not sophomores, not 3-year sophomores, but to bring them to an all-star game. Okay. And so we can bring those guys, and supposedly you can't invite them until like the 8th of January. Well, that's, we all know that's not happening.
That's not happening.
They're unofficially probably already been invited and accepted, but on January 8th, you'll find out who. But because it's just too late. You got to fill your rosters for both games, the East, West, and the Shrine game. So, or rather, the Shrine game and the Senior Bowl. So these guys, they've been working on it for a month already on that. So, but still, we're going to find out a bulk of the names around the 8th of January. The league will put out the official. There's a 3-day dead period where you can pull your name out if you haven't hired an agent. That starts. So that's the drop dead date is the 15th. Then the 18th, the league puts out the real list.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll know most of the names, but you get the official list on the 18th of January. And then you can, start playing around. Then you find, okay, who's in, who's not in.
Right. Chop Robinson, by the way, he declared in December 5th. Chop Robinson.
But he is coming up.
Yes, he is.
Love Chop Robinson. Love me that Chop.
J2K, I think J2K wants to see you get fired up when he asked this question. What are your thoughts on Brian Greasy, the assistant offensive coordinator with the 49ers?
Should bring back Ron Turner for that one. that would be the a heavyweight match you could have in the middle of Hallis Hall Park.
Brian Greasy is not beloved by some.
Brian Greasy has been a coach in the National Football League for less than one season.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hire him as an OC?
No, I'm
this
not.
This is his first season, and he never coached before.
I'm not hiring him to announce.
Could he be in the future? Yeah, I mean, Brian Greasy's a smart guy. There's no question.
Mm-hmm.
I just personally don't like him as a person because he's a snake, but very, very smart guy, very astute guy, knows offense.
Yeah.
But is he ready to run a team's offense? Not after only coaching for less than 1 year, he's not.
Mm-hmm. Well, and football CF Candy says, Greg, what do you feel about the Bears' opinions on their coaching staff? Still feel that they need to improve the coaching infrastructure regardless of what happens on loss record. We have not had a head coach with the Chicago Bears since you were working over at Hallis Hall that I think the fans were generally more positive than negative about, and that's, of course, Lovie Smith. Do you think that the Bears ownership and decision makers have just gone through a bad luck?
Well, I know in the case of when Trestman was hired, Bill Emery thought he was outsmarting everybody. And Phil and I were good friends. We have not spoken one word to each other since since he and Trestman got fired. Because I was writing for the Score then, and he said, you wrote some negative articles. And I said, I got to write the truth, Phil. He came at me at the Senior Bowl. And I said, I think those were deserved articles. You're supposed to be my friend. I said, I am your friend. So,
Greg,
spoken to him since.
Greg, when he said you're supposed to be my friend, and you said I am your friend, then we lost you for a few seconds there. What did you say after that?
I said I am your friend, but I also got to tell the truth, and I'm not going to lie, because then I lose my own credibility.
He should understand that. He should know that.
Well, no, I have not spoken to him, nor will I, since that day.
If he calls you,
because then, it got out, because some people saw it, and all of a sudden, there's some people that reported it on Twitter and stuff. And then Dan Bernstein asked me if I wanted to come on the Score and talk about it. I said, absolutely not. It's a personal matter.
You don't want to talk. If you're going to talk to anyone about it, it's not Dan Bernstein.
Well, no, I mean, at that point, I was doing work for the Score. I was writing for him, and I was,
I understand.
And I was a fill-in guy and a football analyst. So, but he sent me a note, a text. He goes, I heard this happened. Is it true? Yeah. Want to talk about it on the show? No. It's personal matter.
Interesting. Okay.
I didn't want to rub Phil's face into it.
Yeah.
And, Phil worked with me. I had a lot of respect for him. I just, he came at me. I thought it was wrong.
Right.
And I didn't like it. So,
right.
Fuck him.
That's what a true friend does. I'm not going to talk about it publicly, but I am going to publicly give an honest, candid evaluation of what you've done. And so,
I mean, that's what I'm getting paid to do. I'm not getting paid to lie.
Mm-hmm. Football Candy adds, I just feel like the team requires a specific offensive mind to mold and support the offense, regardless of whoever the quarterback is. I have zero confidence that Luke is a pass game coordinator. A pass game coordinator can do that. Yeah, because Luke has never called plays. Worked with one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the game. Did not prove himself. And, we've talked about that repeatedly.
And he was the quarterback coach there. He wasn't the coordinator.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah, I mistakenly said that. Yes. All right. We are past the 90-minute mark. I think it's a good time to pull the plug on this one. There were a couple of other questions. I'll save those. I promise Eric, and I promise who else? David and anyone else that I failed to get to their questions. Greg, are the Bears going to win this upcoming game against the lowly Atlanta Falcons? Actually, they're not that bad.
This would be yes, and this would be no, right?
Right. Okay, that's mostly a yes.
That is a yes. They will win this week. And Atlanta had a good game, real good game against the Colts, who needed the win. But that game was also played in a dome in Atlanta. Be a little colder here.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just going to be 33, 34, I think is the forecast right now. Could be a little colder, but it's still a dome team coming up north to play, a game on New Year's Eve. I remember a Sunday night game, but it was real cold. We played Atlanta. They quit in the first quarter.
Wow.
Totally quit. Mike quarterback.
That's wild. All right. That is it for today. I apologize for the abrupt ending here, but I got to go check on my wife who is ill. And Greg,
you do that.
Have a great week, and I'll talk to you very soon. Okay, brother?
We'll talk next year, right?
Yeah, we'll talk next year. Indeed. Take care, everybody. We'll see you all soon.
See you later. Happy New Year, people.